Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. Normally I will play these videos uninterrupted and then I go back and hit rewind and talk about things. But since this one is pretty much a 30-minute video from the source, I'm going to change it up a little bit. That way it doesn't end up being that long of a video. Still probably going to be kind of long, but I think that if I just pause at certain moments and talk about stuff that's going on, then it'll be easier and be more concise. That way I'm not forgetting stuff, trying to rewind and go through all this other stuff. So I'm going to play the video. I'll pause intermittently here and there to talk about things that are going on, to better explain what's going on, and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or being done wrong. So without further ado, here we go.
Hello.
Now, first things first, it's kind of a cheesy intro, right? I mean, it works, but I don't know. It being in Silicon Valley, I think they could have found a company that, or a resource that would have, I don't know, kind of produced a better video than this. Or at least an intro to this.
Hello. I'm San Jose Police Department Public Information Officer Sergeant Christian Camarillo. This community briefing is intended to provide you with information about an officer-involved incident that occurred in San Jose. We are still at the very early stages of this investigation, and our understanding of the incident may change as additional evidence is collected, analyzed, and reviewed. Incidents like this involve a joint criminal investigation by the San Jose Police Homicide Unit and the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office. The case is being monitored by the San Jose Police Department's Internal Affairs Unit, the City Attorney's Office, and the Office of the Independent Police Auditor. We will walk you through relevant video footage and evidence related to this case so you can have a better understanding of what occurred based on what we know right now. We will not make any conclusions about whether the officer involved acted consistently with our policy and the
I don't know why, but he reminds me of Forrest Whitaker.
law until all the facts are known and the investigation is complete. I ask that you use caution when viewing this community briefing and be mindful of young children or sensitive persons who may be watching. What you're about to see may be disturbing. Uses of force and violent confrontations can be difficult to watch. There also may be strong language used by those shown in the video. Viewer discretion is advised. Today in this community briefing video, we will be providing you with preliminary information and details of what led up to the officer-involved shooting and death of Robert Seth Carter on Wednesday, January 19th at the intersection of Heading Street and Park Avenue in San Jose. The incident began at approximately 6 p.m. on January 19th when police located a stolen Toyota Camry in the area of Story and King Road. When the driver observed marked police units enter the area, the Camry fled and began driving erratically in opposing lanes of traffic on surface streets. Police units on the ground kept their distance and did not activate their lights, sirens, and did not attempt to stop or pursue the vehicle. The driver of the stolen Toyota Camry was later identified as Robert Seth Carter. At approximately 6:45, Air 3 located the vehicle and observed it get onto Highway 280 towards downtown San Jose. The vehicle drove through Columbus Park and then onto Highway 880, exiting on the Alameda and into the city of Santa Clara. When Carter approached the intersection of Monroe and Heading, he pulled up next to a single occupant sitting in a stopped vehicle who had the driver's door of their car open. Carter approached the driver of the stopped car and pointed a gun at them. The driver exited the car and ran away as Carter entered the new vehicle in what appears in video from Air 3 to be an attempted carjacking. The victim was later interviewed and confirmed what was seen from the air.
So, people spend a lot of time in and around vehicles. When you think about your daily life, how much time do you spend in your vehicle? How integral to your life is a vehicle? Now, there are some people who live in some places where they don't have a vehicle. Some people may live, dab smack in the middle of a very large city like New York, and they don't have a car. They just ride a bicycle or they walk to everywhere they go. Even in a large place like this, even in New York too, there's still cars. But aside from those people who live that lifestyle without a car, I don't know how you do it. Everyone else spends some time in a vehicle, and when it comes to threats that occur, things that are dangerous to you, i.e., people trying to do harm to you, there's a good chance it's going to be involved in or around a vehicle. In my vehicle tactics class, of course, this has gone over, and that's one of the reasons why vehicle tactics class exists, because we do spend a lot of time in and around our vehicles, and there's lots of times where bad things happen, bad people try to do bad things to other people, and cars are involved. So in this scenario, this guy has apparently pulled up to this parking spot and is getting out of his vehicle. And as he's getting out of his vehicle, this car just comes, what looks like a normal car, normal traffic, right? It just comes to an abrupt stop, and the guy gets out and starts pointing a gun at him. And the person has little time to react. And we'll back it up again and watch this.
Of Monroe and Heading, he pulled up next to a single occupant sitting in a stopped vehicle who had the driver's door of their car open. Carter approached the driver of the stopped car and pointed a gun at them. The driver exited the car and ran away as Carter entered the new.
So that's as best as you could do. There's not much you can do to outdraw a drawn gun. And so this guy did the right thing. He ran. He got off the X. He did what is known as the Nike drill. He just ran. He stops and then turns around and looks. I don't think that's the best thing to do. If you're going to commit to one option, then commit to it. Don't half-ass it. He should have just kept running and put as much distance between him and the bad guy as possible. Now, if he was armed, would he have been able to outdraw this dude who just came up by surprise? And, I don't care what mental condition you like to say you're always in. This is the total unexpected. Like, trying to react to this and time a car stopping, and then the guy gets out, like they're already on you pretty much. I mean, your reaction time is not going to be as great as you think it's going to be, or as good as you want it to be. So him whipping his gun out and getting into a gunfight at this stage wouldn't have been good. Now him coming over with his vehicle and he's taking cover, yeah, sure, I could see him drawing his gun and providing lethal cover on this guy who has pointed a gun at him, and remain behind cover and make sure this guy don't approach him any further, because this guy could be like, hey, there's no keys in this car. Let me go run this guy down and get his keys from him. Let me shoot him to get his keys from him. So no problem with him wanting to stop right here. But I'm pretty confident this guy don't have a gun, and since he don't have a gun, the best thing he needs to do is just keep running. But if you got a gun, even if you got a gun, you should probably still keep running. If you can avoid that gunfight, then by all means, avoid that gunfight. But, you may have some physical limitations. You may not be able to run very far, and you may have to pick a place to defend yourself. And if you happen to be around other cars, then by all means, take cover behind another vehicle. Remember to use engine blocks. They stop bullets pretty well. Put as much of the car between you and the threat as possible. And if that means you having to move around this vehicle to facilitate that, then do so. And get good shots. But other than that, the best thing to do when presented with a scenario like this is get off the X, get the hell out of there. Nothing says that just because you have a gun that you have to get into a gunfight with someone. If you can run, get the hell out of there, do that. That's better.
Appears in video from Air 3 to be an attempted carjacking. The victim was later interviewed and confirmed what was seen from the air. Carter was unable to drive off in the carjacked vehicle and abandoned it. He re-entered the original stolen Camry and drove away. The carjacked vehicle was seen from the air. In an attempt to get away, the driver of the section of Monroe heading, he pulled up next to the park and then onto Hira. When Carter approached the...
So, check the skid marks. This dude, slammed on his brakes.
The intersection of Monroe and heading, he pulled up next to a single occupant sitting in a stopped vehicle who had the gun at the appears in video from the air.
When he takes off, you'll see two spots where he spun out.
Carter was unable to drive off in the carjacked vehicle and abandoned it.
Yeah, there's the spots right there.
He re-entered the original stolen Camry and drove away. As Carter entered the intersection of Park and Heading, he collided with another vehicle that was occupied by a driver and passenger. Trapped inside his now disabled vehicle, Carter exited through the passenger window and ran north on Park Avenue, holding a gun in his hand and carrying a backpack. Carter then ran on the west side of Park Avenue and appears to try and stop a passing car by pointing the gun at the vehicle. The vehicle was traveling southbound on Park. At the same time, an officer is approaching from the south. Carter then fires around in the direction of the passing vehicle. The approaching officer returns fire. Carter continued running through the parking lot on the northwest corner and south back onto Heading Street. The next officer that arrives was driving eastbound on Heading. He stops his vehicle when he sees a suspect on Heading Street and immediately exits his patrol car. Carter points his gun at the officer. The officer then fired his weapon at Carter, striking him at least once. Video evidence shows Carter pointing the handgun directly at the officer. Carter maintained possession of the handgun after being struck and moved into the front yard of a home on the corner of the intersection of Heading and Burrell Court. 3 additional officers arrived at the location to assist. The 3 additional officers observed the suspect still holding the handgun and pointing it at the first officer that contacted Carter. Each fired their weapon. 4 officers in total fired their weapons. Carter continued to hold the handgun and was struck more than one time by officers' rounds. When Carter fell to the ground, the handgun was still next to his hand. A Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department K-9 unit arrived, and the K-9 was deployed to separate Carter from his handgun. The K-9 bit Carter's leg and pulled him away from the handgun. Officers handcuffed Carter and began to provide first aid until relieved by medical personnel. Carter was transported by ambulance to a local hospital shortly after arriving, and he was pronounced deceased. There are 4 involved officers in this shooting. All officers were equipped with body-worn cameras that were utilized during this incident. All the involved officers are CIT trained. All 4 officers were placed on routine administrative leave. A joint criminal investigation by the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office and the San Jose Police Department Homicide Unit is underway. The case is being monitored by the San Jose Police Department Internal Affairs Unit, the City Attorney's Office, and the Office of the Independent Police Auditor. The determination of whether the shooting was lawful and justified will come from the District Attorney at a later date. In addition to body-worn camera video, much of this incident was captured by video cameras in our police helicopter. The handgun recovered from the suspect at the scene is an unserialized 9mm firearm or ghost gun. Ghost guns are illegal to be possessed by anyone. Carter is a San Jose resident and had 5 warrants for his arrest at the time of this incident. He is prohibited from possessing any firearm due to prior felony convictions.
All right.
5 warrants for his arrest possessed by any helicopter. The handgun recovered from the suspect at the scene is an unserialized 9mm firearm or ghost gun. Ghost guns are illegal to be possessed by anyone. Carter is a San Jose resident and had 5 warrants for his arrest at the time of this incident. He is prohibited from possessing any firearm due to prior felony convictions.
5 warrants out for his arrest, and I'm sure that he has been involved multiple times before this, And I would not be surprised to find out if the last thing he got locked up for could have resulted in him being locked away for a long period of time. But instead of them actually locking him away for a long period of time, they gave him some bullshit probation or some type of diversion. And it leads to this. That happens way too often. Shitbag criminals getting little slaps on the wrist, getting multiple chances, and they end up putting society at risk. These people are clear and present dangers to society. They do not need to be walking around with us. They need to be locked away in cages at bare minimum. So, ghost gun. California is all about talking about ghost guns, and I guess California just has a bunch of ghost guns, or it just could be that they're the only ones who harp on it a whole lot. This thing is fucking ugly. Like, this is legit, like, hack job looking thing. Like, this thing, ugh, like, it looks awful. it's, it's not a very good ghost gun. It don't look good at all. The grip, the lower frame, I guess it's okay, but man, this top slide, dude, like, this thing is something else. So I said that California really harps on ghost guns, and I don't. Although I'm a gun guy, like, I don't get into building guns. I haven't built my own AR-15 like a bunch of gun guys have. I certainly haven't built my own pistol. I know how to take them apart, detail strip them, stuff like that. I just haven't ever had the desire to build my own pistol, or build my own rifle for that matter. Now, these kits that people get, so obviously if you go buy a full frame from someone, a gun dealer, that's a firearm. Just the frame itself is a firearm, and you have to do a NICS check and everything like that. So the ghost guns, you can buy the slide. You can buy this top piece. It's not considered a firearm. So you can buy 1,000 slides a day if you want. If you got the money, you can buy this top part all damn day long. You buy these barrels all day long. They're not considered firearms. It's the frame that's considered a firearm. Now, when they sell these frames as ghost gun kits, they're not a complete frame, meaning you cannot open the box and attach this thing on the top of it to it and it start working. You have to do something to this block of plastic in order to be able to accept these internals into it, so that when you put this top thing on here, it will work. So where you see these little holes at, these are usually filled with plastic. It's just a big block of plastic, and you have to get a drill press, and it'll come with a what's the term? Blah. I can't think of my words. A jig, not a jig. I can't think of the word right now, but it comes with this little thing that you put it in there, and it has these little guide marks on there, and you can take your drill and drill through those guide marks. And yeah, it is called a jig kit. All right, so I just did a search for it. But you get the frame, and you get this big plastic sleeve thing that fully encases the whole thing. And the little kit comes with the drill bits, and you just got to take a tool that will take those drill bits, and then You just basically drill through the little guide holes that's on that big sleeve that encases the whole frame, and you just make these precision holes into the frame itself. And once you do that, you are then able to put the internals into the frame and push the little pins in to hold those things in place. And they call these 80% lowers. So with them being only 80% completed and there still having to be more work done to make it a firearm, they're not considered firearms. So anyone can get online and buy these things. And all you got to do is get a drill and put your drill bits in there and put the little clam thing around the frame and drill through those spots and then put the pieces together. And if you have trouble putting it together, you don't know where the parts go, then it comes with the directions, and or you can just go to YouTube and figure out how to do it. Now, the slide on top, again, that thing is fucking ugly. I don't know anything about that particular design. I mean, I don't know about it. But what this person, whoever made this, I don't know if it was the suspect who made it, but whoever made this, they bought the lower, they drilled the holes through it, put the pieces in, got the slide and the barrel, and they attached it together, and it's a complete working gun now. There's no serial numbers on it or anything. And it's not like serial numbers on a gun mean a whole lot anyway. It's not like there's a national database that has serial numbers tying back to every single person who has bought a gun. And there never should be at all. Like that should never exist. So I don't know what it is about people who are so adamant about a gun having a serial number on it. The only thing the serial number helps for is identifying it when it gets stolen. And when police come into contact with someone, they have it with them and they can check the serial number and see if it's been reported stolen. Like that's the only useful thing on it. Just like your TV. Your TV has a serial number on it. Whenever you get to buy a TV, you should record down the serial number. That way, if someone breaks in your house and steals your TV, well, you have a serial number to provide to the police. And when the police pick up pawn tickets, lots of agencies across this nation, a lot of states require pawn shops to allow police to come in and look at their sales tickets, and they require pawn shops to record their sales. So if someone came in, stole your TV, and they try to take it to a pawn shop and sell it, they're supposed to record that person's information and record down the serial number. And then when the police get your report and they type in the serial number, and if it's computerized stuff from the pawn shop, it'll click, it'll match, and they'll know, hey, your TV that you reported stolen was sold at Shady's pawn shop. And then they can track down, who sold it to the pawn shop and find the criminal that way. So that's really the only useful thing for serial numbers. It's just tracking them in the event that they get stolen. And then, of course, in-house, being able to determine, when this particular product was manufactured, what year, date, and, location, whatever. That helps for that aspect. As far as preventing crimes or anything like that, it don't help for shit. So I don't understand why some of these people are so adamant about guns having to have serial numbers on them. It don't mean shit. It's just a push by the anti-gun crowd to want to establish some type of national repository to record every single person in this country who has a gun and what gun they have. Which, like I said, that should never happen. That should never exist. But yeah, that's an 80 or not 80%. That's a ghost gun. A ghost gun is just an 80% lower that has not been fully drilled holes out and everything completely done on it to where it's a complete firearm piece. So it's just essentially a piece of plastic in the eyes of the law. And then people drill their own holes into it and are able to start putting stuff into it to make the lower half a firearm. And then the upper stuff, you can buy that stuff all day long. It's not considered a firearm. Put them together, you got a working gun. Is that bad? No. Hell no, it's not bad. These criminals, some criminals are smart enough to be able to do this on their own. Others, on the other hand, they're not very smart, and they wouldn't ever be able to finish something like this because they're just stupid. But there are some criminals who are smart enough to be able to do this on their own, and it's not hard. Is it like this is a rampant problem? No. The biggest problem is lawful gun owners negligently storing their guns in a manner that make them accessible and operable to unauthorized people. For example, a person keeps their handgun in the center console of their car and then they leave their fucking car unlocked. That's the biggest threat. That's where guns end up on. That's how a lot of guns end up on the street. It's not like all these little thugs are out here building ghost guns. I mean, some of them do good just to chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. There's some who are just, they're fucking dumb. And so it's not these ghost guns that are the problem. It is lawful gun owners negligently storing their guns to where they're accessible and operable to unauthorized people. Even if they lock their car door, they will still keep it in the center console. And that's still dumb because the center consoles typically do not lock. And it's very easy to break out a car window and then open the door and then open up the center console that's not locked. So that's the biggest problem on how guns end up on the street. Not like all these little thugs out here building ghost guns.
Ghost gun. Ghost guns are illegal to be possessed by anyone. Carter is a San Jose resident and had 5 warrants for his arrest at the time of this incident. He is prohibited from possessing any firearm due to prior felony convictions.
So OIS number 1, this is the first OIS for the year 2022 for this agency. So they're all responding to this call where there's a guy with a gun. Personally, I think the body camera should have already been turned on before he ever got out of the car. Like, this is a hot call. It's very rapidly evolving. You never know when you're going to jump out of your car. So in instances like this, the best thing, in my opinion, to do is just turn the camera on while you're in the vehicle. That way you ain't got to worry about it when you get out of the car. This is something that I do. Before I get out of the car and go make contact with people, or if I'm on my way to something, and as I'm pulling in to the location, I will turn the camera on. That way, before I ever get out of the car, the camera is on and rolling. That way, if something happens very rapidly, I don't have to worry about trying to remember to turn the camera on or make the physical attempt to try and turn it on when I need to be focused on doing something else. It's already on. That's a practice that I think needs to be practiced a lot more.
Area 1, shots fired, shots fired. Is that him? Suspect dropped the gun! Suspect dropped the gun! Drop the fucking gun! Reload, reload! Drop it! Full fire! Full fire! Full fire! Red, 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 red!
Happy red!
On! Green! Drop the gun and we'll get you medical aid!
Drop the gun! Let me roll.
Let's back this part up.
Full fire! Full fire! Full fire!
All right, so he he's fired the slide lock. That's not very common for gunfights. It happens, but it's not very common to fire the slide lock. But he ends up firing the slide lock, and he performs a reload.
Full fire! Full fire! Full fire!
He inserted the magazine,
Full fire! Full fire! Full fire!
and it appears that the slide rocked forward. This is pretty common with polymer framed pistols. You cause when you insert that magazine and you insert it firmly, it can cause the slide to rock forward on its own. And most of the time, it does strip a round out of the magazine and feed it into the breech. Most of the time. There are times as you are going to be ramming this thing into the slide into the mag well, that the slide drops on its own and it doesn't catch that round and load it into the breech. And you can see that when this officer puts the mag in and the slide goes forward, you see him reach over the top as if he's going to rack that slide, but he hesitates and stops. Because he must be running through his head, oh, the slide went forward on its own, it must be loaded. The way I've been trained and the way I train other people is when this occurs, you go ahead and rack that slide anyway. Even though there's a pretty good chance that it stripped around out of the mag and put it into the breech. I don't like dealing with pretty good chance. I like dealing with solids. And so racking that slide is the best thing to do. And the reason why I will train like that is when you're on the range and in the class, you are similar or close to how you are right now. You're in a cool, calm, collective state. Your forebrain is able to process stuff better. But when the fight happens, there are some physical and psychological changes that occur. And some of the psychological changes that occur is your forebrain starts to stop working as effectively, and your midbrain starts to take over. And midbrain's more like monkey brain, and it doesn't possess the forebrain's capability, right? Like forebrain is what gives us Mozart. It's what gives us Leonardo. It's what gives us all the arts and everything that make humans distinctly different from the other primates. Midbrain doesn't remember shit other than muscle memory. And when the fight happens and you start having a huge adrenaline dump, you want your actions to be the same. under the stress. And you want those actions to occur under that stress. That way, if it's bad enough and you've got a bad adrenaline dump and you haven't been stress inoculated that great, and forebrain, your heart rate's going crazy, forebrain's almost 100% gone, and you're just full monkey brain, then if you've done enough repetitions and training to where it becomes muscle memory, you'll be able to perform that task without ever having to actually think about it. You won't have to think to rack that slide. You'll just do it. So that's one of the main reasons why anytime the gun is going to be reloaded, you always rack that slide. Even in training, when you can recognize via forebrain that a round went in, you still rack. Because in a fight, forebrain might not be able to recognize that. And you want those actions to be the same all across the board. Have it happen every single time. Other people don't train like this. They say it's okay that when you go to insert that mag into a polymer framed pistol and that slide rocks forward on its own, they say it's fine to go ahead and rock with it the way it is. They ain't got to worry about racking that slide. And as I said, it does. It most of the time it does do that. It does load in there. And for me personally, I can't really honestly recall any time that I've done this and it didn't take a round out of the magazine. But still, even then, for me, I like to train and practice of always racking that slide no matter what when performing a reload. So not saying that people who don't do it are wrong or this guy's wrong or anything, but that's just not how I train or how I train other people.
Red, 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 red!
Happy red!
On! Green! Drop the gun and we'll get you medical aid!
Drop the gun! Let me the holster.
Shots fired, shots
Let me
fired.
the holster. The gun's blood.
10-9-6. Move this way!
Hey, come on. Get in. Get behind.
Drop the gun!
Drop the gun!
Drop the gun!
Put your hands
Put your
up!
hands up! Got it.
I'm here.
Put your hands up!
Radio.
Stay there! Drop the gun!
Hang tight. Everybody okay?
Yes.
Good.
Wait, I don't think I'm hit. I'm not hit.
You're good.
My car got shot at.
Hey, your car got shut up?
Very one car shot at. Suspect, put your hands out! Yeah, we're good.
Two boys.
Suspect, put your hands up, crawl away from the gun so we can get you medical aid! Suspect, put your hands up, crawl away so we can get you medical aid!
So I like how they're using the verbal commands here, calling out to the guy, trying to get him to crawl away from the gun. I don't think that this dude really, at this point, has the physical capability of crawling away from the gun. But they're making a good faith effort for safety and security reasons to get him to crawl away from that gun and get him to put his hands out before they make that approach, because he could be playing possum. He could be waiting for one of them to come up, and he could be shot, and he could know that he's going to be dying, but he could be having the mindset, you know what, I'm going to take one of them out with me. If I start shooting right now, they'll just for sure kill me, but if one of them gets up here, I might be able to ambush them and take one with me. So that could be his mindset, and you have no idea. And so they're being cautious, as they should be, because this guy shot at them, and they're giving him verbal commands and telling him to crawl away from the gun. Meanwhile, he's bleeding out. Do I care about that? No. I don't care that he's bleeding out. He brought this shit upon himself. If they want to spend the time yelling at him and telling him to do things while he's bleeding out, it is what it is. The dude shouldn't have fucking pulled a gun and shot at him.
Do not attempt to shoot at us again!
And nothing says that you have to run up on somebody after an incident like this. You can take your time. It's better to be safe than sorry.
Let's try to push up with them from behind, eh? Let's push up with them from the backside. He's still moving! Suspect, do not reach for the gun! We want to get you medical aid! Crawl away from the gun or put your hands on your head so we can render aid to you!
So we can watch this side and they can maybe come up on the other side.
Copy.
So we can go hands.
That's much better, yeah. You guys good? Cover behind the tree here?
Yeah, I'm good.
Copy.
Where can I come out?
Copy. K9 coming up.
They've got really good communications among each other. Really liking how they're handling this and performing. I've seen other videos where the communication hasn't been the greatest, but these guys, they're performing well. And I'll get to the other officer who's calling out red and green and reload, and how they acknowledge him and everything. I'll get into that stuff, but that plus the way they're communicating, they're planning this. This tells me that they've had some degree of decent firearms and tactics training. It's refreshing to see this kind of stuff. Now, as it is in most cases across the U.S., when it comes to stuff like this, police oftentimes neglect to get out with rifles, and they only go at stuff with pistols. So I'm not too terribly happy at them getting out on this call with just pistols only. If they had rifles in their cars, they should have definitely gotten those rifles out and put them into play, but it happens. But as far as how they're performing right now, I like it, and it tells me that they haven't just done the bare bone minimum with training. Like, they have practiced this enough, and it could also be that these officers are all freaking, top performers, and they just happen to be pretty close to each other. But I will go out on a limb and say that they've had some decent training beyond what they learned at the academy.
K9 coming up.
Yeah, copy.
I got you covered, T. I think he's flipping us off. He looks like he's flipping us off. Suspect, we would like to render medical aid for you, but we do not want to be shot. Are you able to crawl away from the gun so we can render medical aid to you?
So the gun's supposed to be there, where he's at. You guys do.
Yeah. It's within reaching distance of him right now.
There, we could do K9. If we can, hey, can your dog drag?
Yes.
If we could drag, because the gun's right there, if we could drag, then we could 10-15 him. Alright? Then we could cuff him up and stuff. Because the gun looks like it's right there. So you see the gun.
Appears to be right there within reaching distance.
Sheriff's Office K9. Stop for my dog. Hey, let me see your hands or my dog's gonna bite you.
They're 3 King 5.
Sheriff's Office K-9! Final warning! If you see my dog, he won't bite you!
Okay, I'll go with whoever we need.
I got a long rifle.
I got cuffs. I got cuffs.
Cannot see the gun right now. Cannot see the gun right now. Might still be in his hand there.
We're gonna approach from here.
I got hands.
Can you see hands?
Cannot see his hands. Cannot see his hands. Cannot see gun.
Okay. Wait. Release the.
That freaking dog dragged his ass all the way back to here. I love dogs. I love working dogs. There's just something about canines that just puts a smile on my face, especially when they go to work. There's a reason why dogs are called man's best friend. They've been with us for so long. They really are part of our family. Just like domesticated cats are. But the dog, there's something special about dogs. There really is. And when it comes to a working dog, God, I love them. They're especially, you see a working dog doing bite work. It's satisfying. It's satisfying to see that dog doing work and is so happy to be working. And then something, like this, that dog comes up and just grabs a hold and is able to drag this guy back. Now, albeit, his handler is kind of assisting him and pulling on him a little bit. But this dog is so in the zone, so determined that even though he's being pulled on, he's not letting go of the guy. He is latching on and he is dragging him back, and he is making it safe for the humans to be able to go up. And that's what the dogs are for. The dogs are meant to save human life. They're working dogs. They work for humans, to save humans. There's a lot of handlers out there that struggle with that. And they start viewing their tool as a pet. And I can understand why. The dogs, the working dogs, they look just like your pet dog, right? And given, some training and whatnot, your pet dog could get close to being like an actual working dog. Now, these working dogs, they're especially bred from good lines, and they have pretty intense training from their upbringing. So, if you got a pet dog, it's not going to be exactly the same as a working dog, but you can kind of get it a little bit close. The working dogs, they're the cream of the crop. Like, they are premium dogs. Come from good lines, and they're bred for perfection and trained for perfection. And when they're not working, they can take on the same characteristics as a pet. They're still a dog. They'll play with you, wag your tail, and come up to you for companionship and everything. So yeah, even though they're a tool, just like a hammer is a tool, a gun is a tool, a baton is a tool, a taser, OC, whatever. Even though they're a tool, but because they're a living, breathing thing and they're a dog and they resemble our pets, I can I can understand why some handlers struggle with sending their dog in to do bite work on scenarios like this. So I really want to applaud the handler in this for actually deploying his dog on this guy when he's so close to a gun, because there's a lot of handlers who would simply flat out refuse to send their dog in. And as I said, the dog is a tool, and it's a tool to save human lives. And although there's a lot of monetary value involved with, sending someone to be a handler and having that dog trained under that person, and it could be a financial hardship to get another person trained up to that level and then have them put in the hours with that dog to get them proficient enough to be certified to be on the road. I think that agencies, once they've identified that a person who's a handler that's not deployed their dog when they should, multiple times, they should cut that person out of being a handler and find someone else, because those people they're a risk. And they're a risk because they refuse to utilize a tool that could save human lives. But like I said, it is a financial hardship to be able to just cut out a person from being a handler and make someone else, and get that person and that dog enough time together to be one. It's money and time involved. It's not an overnight thing to be able to do. And when you get agencies that only have one handler and dog, or maybe just two, it could be hard to do that. But it's something that needs to be done more often, because there are handlers out there. They're not really handlers. They're pet owners, essentially. And that may be hard for some people to fully fathom and understand, but just know that there's a difference between a canine handler and a pet owner. And you will see this more in the search and rescue world. Like, on a magnitude that you just can't understand. Like, you will see this difference in search and rescue like a billboard. There's been very few true handlers I've seen in the search and rescue world. The rest are just dog people. They're just pet owners. Now, in the police world, it's obviously a little bit more disciplined. It's a little bit, a lot of it's different. But some of these handlers end up becoming just mere pet owners, and they refuse to use the tool appropriately. So, like I said, I want to applaud this handler for doing the right thing and actually sending his dog in when a lot of others would refuse to send their pet in.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously? All right. Come up.
He's gonna get the dog off, though.
Don't worry about
This time, it's really for good time.
Now, at this point, we do see some rifles out, which is good. I like that. You go into a gunfight, you bring a rifle.
Got it.
All right, let's start stripping them.
He's got a light gray hoodie, hood is down, blue jeans, white shoes, handgun in his right hand, black backpack on his back.
So this is an interesting setup. I don't think I've ever seen this before. Now, obviously, this is a smart siren. You can see all the buttons for it and a little switch, and this is his radio. But I don't think I've ever seen a mount like this before. It's actually kind of interesting.
Running northbound on Park. First spot, trying to actively 250, just fired a shot at a vehicle that was rolling southbound Park. Now running westbound, I think this is Northwest Corner, where the restaurant is, Northwest Corner. Now taking southbound, back towards heading west of the building. Now taking southbound.
You can hear his siren going.
Back towards heading west of the building.
As soon as he throws that thing in park, it shuts off. So I've talked about this before in some other videos. All the manufacturers who produce a siren, to my knowledge, have it within their products the capability of having that automatic shut-off feature if you wire it up correctly. Now there may be some cheaper manufacturers out there that maybe don't have that on there, but any of your like legit public safety manufacturers that have been in the game, like Federal Signal, Wayland, they're going to have this built into their stuff. And I know that particular one, the Federal Signal Smart Siren, has it built in. The thing actually does quite a bit. That is a good thing to have wired up. Can't tell you how many videos I've seen of people having to bail out of their vehicle quickly and they don't have the time to reach down and flip a switch and turn the siren off. And this all you hear is a freaking siren in the background, and they're loud, and it can be hard to communicate with each other when you have this loud ass siren or multiple loud ass sirens going off. So it's really nice to be able to have the shutoff feature wired in. And you can also have these things wired in to your horn on your car. So when you press the horn, it changes the siren tone. That's pretty cool. All across the nation, it varies between agency to agency on how their equipment is set up. Some agencies will buy their vehicles from a distributor, and they practically come, equipped with the light bars and all the sirens and stuff, and all that stuff is professionally wired in. It's a turnkey solution. They don't have to mess with it. They ain't got to do anything. All they got to do is put their radio in it and slap some stickers on it and go to work. Other agencies will buy the vehicles from a dealership, and when they get it, all it has is the freaking spotlight on it. And they've got to put in the cage. They got to put in the siren and the lights and all the stuff. They got to put everything in. And when it comes to having to put all your stuff in like that, agencies vary on who does that stuff. So some agencies may have like their own version of a mechanic shop that is exclusively for them and for other parts of their government. So, like some city police departments may have like their public works or whatever that they'll take their cars to, and they're the ones who change the oil and rotate tires and stuff like that. And they do the installs where they install the cages and the computers, and they run all the wires, and they do all that stuff. Some agencies may have like a radio company in town or in a town close to them, and they're a vendor that sells some of that stuff as well, and they do the install. Since they're going to be installing the radios anyway, they can also charge a little bit of extra fee to install the siren boxes and all that stuff. And then there's some agencies that will, contract with, a mechanic shop to install that kind of stuff. Or there may be a sound equipment company in the area that will do all those installs. Or, there could be some volunteer firefighter who lives around there and runs a business doing installs, and they might get the contract to do all the installs for the local agencies there. It varies all across the nation. But when it comes to the agencies having someone install all that stuff, it varies between them fully knowing how all that stuff is installed and them not knowing. And some of them will just do the very basic bare necessity. They'll install the speaker, they'll install the siren, they'll run the speaker wires and the power and the negative, and they'll call it a day. They won't mess with splicing in to any other wires on the vehicle. And when it comes to that aspect, there may be some agencies that they don't want to risk doing that. They don't want to risk having anyone other than the dealership splicing into the wiring harness of the vehicle because they're worried about voiding the warranty. They're worried about liability, blah, blah, blah. So although there may be some people who know how to do all that, they may be prohibited by agency policies and whatnot from wiring that stuff in. And then others just simply don't know how to do it, or they simply just don't want to mess with it. And there's probably a shit ton of cops out there who don't even realize that their siren box has that capability because no one's ever told them. They never looked into it. That's a reality. But anyway, if you have the ability to get someone to wire those extra things in, do it. It's nice being able to throw your car in park and the siren shut off. It's nice being able to tap your horn and the tone changes and you don't have to avert your eyes from the road and look down at the console and mess with it.
Hey, where is he? Hey, go to that side!
So again, they're responding to this call. Guy's got a gun, carjacking, blah, blah, blah. And this officer doesn't get out with a rifle. Now, I don't know for sure if every single car has a rifle in it. I would suspect that every car has a rifle in it, but I don't know. If her car had a rifle in it, then she failed in not getting that rifle out. She should, if she had a rifle in there, she should have got that rifle out. Like I said, if you're going to a gunfight, bring a rifle. Rifle cartridges outperform pistol cartridges every day of the week.
Hey, you see him? Where? Gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Watch out! Copy, red!
On! Green! Drop the gun and we'll get you medical aid!
Drop the gun! Let me in the holster. Let me in the holster. Gloves.
So she recognizes that there's probably not any more fighting to be had, and she's going to reholster. And she knows that they're going to have to go hands-on with this guy, so she's getting her gloves on. She's preparing for something that is going to happen. It's just not happening yet. And I think that's a good thing to do. There's enough people there. There's enough guns pointed at this guy. She made that decision to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to be the one who goes hands-on. And got prepared for that. Versus everyone get up there and then no one has a pair of gloves on because no one prepared for it. She did fire some rounds. I don't know how many rounds she fired.
On! Green! Drop the gun!
Gun! Drop the gun!
Drop the gun!
Watch out! Copy, red!
On! Green! Drop the gun and we'll get you medical aid!
Drop the gun! Let me in the holster.
What I would have liked to have seen her do is reload the gun like the other guy did. and get that gun ready for some more fighting if more fighting is to be had. It's always to fight with a fresh mag in the gun versus fight with a partially depleted mag in the gun. She has good communication skills with the other officer. The other officer announces red, 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 which must be a code word for them to signify reloading without having to yell out where the bad guy can hear reloading. So he yells that out and she says, copy red.
Red, 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 red!
Copy red!
On! Green! Drop the gun and we'll get you medical aid!
Drop the gun! Let me get your holster. Let me get your holster. Gloves. Hey, come on! Get behind!
Drop the gun!
Drop the gun!
Drop the gun!
Put your
Put your
hands
hands up! Your hands up!
up! Place.
Alright, got it.
I'm here.
Oh, you got radio. Stay there! Drop!
Place. I got hands when we need to.
Everybody okay?
Yes.
We're good.
Yes.
Wait, okay. I'm right hit.
We're good.
Your car got shot at, right? My car got shot at. Right, your car got shot at? There ain't one car shot at. Suspect, put your hands out!
Good.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
Two boys on here, real quick.
Suspect! Put your hands up and walk away from the gun so we can get you medical aid!
Keep quiet.
Suspect, put your hands up! Roll away so we can get you medical aid! Do not attempt to shoot at us again!
Why don't you go hands with me? What? Medium's got gun. Put some gloves on. Here. I have mediums.
That's fine, use them.
Use them. Let him stay lethal.
Okay. Let's try to push it from behind, eh?
What do you want to do?
Let's push all of them from the back side.
So you want to swing around or you want them to push up over there so we can keep his hands?
Suspect, do not reach for the gun!
Come around, not in our line of fire though. We don't want to lose visual of the front of his hands. We're going to have to push up at some point.
Yeah.
So we can watch this side and they can maybe come up on the other side.
Copy.
So we can go hands.
Better, yeah. I'll sleep there.
Oh, alright.
Guys, good cover behind the tree here? Yeah, I'm good. Copy.
Come on!
Grab canine coming up, baby. Copy. Canine coming up!
Yeah, we copy.
I think he's flipping us off. It looks like he's flipping us off. Suspect, we would like to render medical aid for you, but we do not want to be shot. Are you able to crawl away from the gun so we can render medical aid to you?
So guns will stay there. You need that? You guys do.
It might be under, like kind of right here.
Anthony said it's about a foot away.
Oh, it's a foot away from him? Copy.
It's within reaching distance of him right now. Yeah.
What do you want to do?
He's there.
Canine's
We
here.
We can yank him. If we can.
Get away
Can
from
your
the
dog
gun.
drag?
Yes.
If we could drag, because the gun's right there, if we could drag, then we could 10-15 in.
We're all
Alright?
okay.
Then we could cuff him up and stuff. Because the gun looks like it's right there. Do you see the gun?
It appears to be right there within reaching distance.
There's those
K9! Stop for my dog! Hey, let me see your hands where I was gonna bite you! Sheriff's Office K9! Final warning! He won't bite you! Hey, you guys.
Okay, I'll go hands when we need.
I got a long rifle.
I got cuffs. I got cuffs.
We're not seeing the gun right now. We're not seeing the gun right now.
I'm gonna go to the left side of it. Once he gets the dog off. Oh, that vehicle's fine. I got hands and cuffs. Not yet.
Not see hands. Not see gun.
Okay.
Hold there.
Wait. Release the once he releases the dog. He's gonna get the dog off though.
Hey, we're ready to come from this side. We're coming from this side.
There you go. Grab that one.
So she had her cuffs pre-positioned perfectly.
Got it.
You know, despite the guy having long sleeves and interfering with the cuffs, that's normal. Other than that, she had them positioned right and was able to get some quick, at least the first one, able to get it on pretty quick. And that's what that's what you like to see. There is a technique for cuffing, and of course, if you've been in this business, you know how to one, preload the cuffs, and then how to hold them correctly. If you got the hand size for it. Too big of hands, you can't really hold on to the cuffs the way that it's taught very well. You have to kind of modify that a little bit. But if you can hold those cuffs the correct way, it makes speed cuffing, a lot quicker. Guess that's why they call it speed cuffing. So obviously this guy's gloving up, anticipating some hands-on action here.
Yeah.
We got a good view on him.
Okay. Want us to pull good forward?
I kind of want to pull it forward just to kind of. We have to approach.
Yeah.
We have to approach from there. It's still next.
Hey, we're gonna push the car forward, okay?
All right. So hold on. So we got maybe we could do leash and drag him. So hang tight here. What's happening? So gun's supposed to be there, kind of like where he's at.
Yep.
Can you guys do? I don't know how you are with the dog. A long leash or something like that.
Let me know when you want me to.
Yeah. All right, guys. So he's there. We could do canine. We could. If we can. Hey, can your dog drag?
Yes.
If we could drag, because the gun's right there, if we could drag, then we could 10-15 him.
We're all okay.
Then we could cuff him up and stuff. Because the gun looks like it's right there. Do you see the gun?
Hey!
Air 3
Citizens
said
K9! Hey, let me see your hands when I was gonna fight you!
Air 3, King 5.
K9! Final
Hey,
warning!
one last time. Where's that firearm?
If you see my dog, he will fight you! Hey, you guys
Copy. Control, just update. We have a canine here that's doing a long leash
I'll go hands
dragging.
when we need.
I got a long rifle.
I got cut.
Let me know when you guys ready to get shot.
Right now. Not see the gun right now. Lights
Pull back.
We're going to approach from here. Copy. Copy.
Not see gun.
All right, we got to approach. You guys ready? That's good. That's good.
Release the dog.
All right. Come up. Don't worry about the dog.
Coming from this side.
Here you go. Grab that one, please.
Back towards ready. Watch out of the morning. Just pass it really left. Oh, you just stop on head. Keep running right now the first time.
Oh, fuck! Reload, reload! Hold fire! Hold fire! Hold fire!
All right. I like this dude.
Oh, fuck! Reload, reload!
So he's fired some rounds. He has not fired the slide lock, but he has fired some rounds, and he wants to do a reload. There's enough people around to provide cover. He communicates out, reload, reload.
Oh, fuck! Reload, reload!
He gets that new mag out, and as he's coming up, he ejects that old mag, puts the new one in, and racks that slide. Even though he probably knows that they're still around in that chamber, he still racks the slide. And to me, that's the right thing to do. If you've trained enough and you've trained if you train to the degree to be able to have your body respond the same so that you don't have to think about it, it just becomes muscle memory, then that's the right way to train. And I believe that based off his actions right there, that it was an automatic reflex. Like, he probably wasn't even thinking about racking that slide. It just happened. And that's what I like to see. That's what I want to see. It's just a natural automatic response. You don't even think about it. There's some thoughts about yelling reload. So some people advocate against saying that out loud because that lets the enemy know that you're reloading. And schools of thought on that are the best thing to say is cover, and then the people there can respond by saying covering, and that lets you know that it's safe to go ahead and perform a reload. And then what he ends up doing here, which we'll go through that.
Hold fire! Hold fire! Hold fire! Red, 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 red! Green! Drop the gun!
So this time he yells red, 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 red. Someone responds to him, the female. She says copy red. And then he says green. So obviously, red means stop, green means go. So that must be something that they've come up for themselves, or it was taught to them, somewhere in training. It was said, hey, you use red, 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 red to signify that you're having to reload. That way you're not telling everyone you're reloading. And then green means you're up again. So the first time he yells reload, and that may have been the way he had been initially trained, and it just how he reacted to it. And then later he recognized that, hey, I should probably be saying red. That's, the newest training. That would be my guess. My guess would be that the red, 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 red came after, his initial training to say reload. But I like what he does. He uses his BFT as cover, and he performs his reloads. He drops the mag, lets it hit the ground. That's another thing I don't think I mentioned. When you're doing a reload, magazines hit the ground. I've trained when I've taken other classes from other instructors. I've trained to do the tactical reload. You fire some rounds. You haven't gone the slide lock. You only fired a few, but you want to do a tactical reload. You bring your new mag up and you hit eject and you catch the old mag. You insert the new and then put your old mag away. I've done that. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I like the simplicity, caveman likeness of dropping that mag. Bringing new mag up to gun, dropping old mag, letting old mag hit the ground, insert new mag, and racking that slide. That is a very basic procedure that doesn't require a lot of finessing. And I like it because it's simple, it's repeatable, and it's something that can be performed under stress, under extreme amount of stress. Other people have different opinions. Other people will say that the best thing to do in this kind of scenario is do the tactical reload. That way you can retain your magazine. It's in your hand. If you have to move, it's in your hand. Of course, the other way, the way I like to do it, it falls and hits the ground. And if you have to move immediately, then it's not likely that you're able to reach down and grab it. As far as retrieving the magazine, once it's hit the ground, all you have to do is avert your eyes down very quickly, pick it up within your eyesight, and then you can put your eyes back on target. You take one of your feet and step forward, and you put your foot on that mag, feel for it, and then you can squat down and grab that mag out from under your foot or at the tip of your foot, however you press to it, and then stow it away like that. But either way, whichever method you choose to do, the biggest takeaway is to top off your gun. It's always best to fight with a gun with a topped off mag. So if you fire some rounds, there's a lull in the fight, that's a good time to do a reload. Even if you think you've only fired 2 rounds or 3 rounds, go ahead and do a reload, because you may have fired more. You just don't know it in the moment, because adrenaline does funny things to you under fight, flight, freeze response. Some people have time distortion. Like immediately after an event, they cannot recall specific things that went on because it's all garbled up in the head. And so, although you may have thought that you only fired 2 rounds, in reality, you could have fired 8. So anytime there's a lull in the fight, there's no shooting going on, and you got the means to do it, it's safe to do so, you got cover, people are protecting you, go ahead and do a reload. That way, if you have to fight some more, then you're able to start fighting again with a topped off gun. Got a fresh mag in there.
And we'll get you medical aid.
Drop the gun! Under your holster. Under your holster.
960.
Okay.
Move this way.
Hey, come on, get in. Behind.
Drop the gun.
Drop the gun!
We got one.
Drop the gun. Put your hands up. All right, got it. Radio.
I copy line of fire northbound heading into
Stay there.
line of fire northbound.
Drop.
All right, hang tight. Everybody okay?
Yes.
Okay. Wait. Okay.
I'm not hit.
I shot at. All right, your car got shot at? Very one car shot at.
Firearm is about half a foot away from this man.
Suspect, put your hands out.
Half a foot away. G5, 13 mags. One time. I have a couple out, and
I don't know what's going to
He is checking himself for bullet holes. That is something that a lot of people don't think about and don't recognize. There have been people who've been shot and they did not know that they've been shot. They didn't feel it. There have been people who, in a fight, were stabbed with a knife and they didn't know they were stabbed. They just thought the other person was punching them. Adrenaline and endorphins, they do wonders. So in fight, flight, freeze mode, like, you sometimes will not feel the pain at all. And that's happened. People have been shot and didn't know they got shot. I remember hearing a story about a guy who got shot in the back of the head. He was just like a random dude walking down the street. And I forget the circumstances involved, but someone fired a gun. And this dude got shot in the back of the head. And of course, he went down, and he got back up, and he got back up. He saw a brick laying on the ground, and he just thought that someone threw a brick at the back of his head and didn't think much of it and went home. Well, later, had a severe headache that hadn't gone away, went to the hospital, and lo and behold, after x-rays, there's a freaking bullet in his fucking head. So, and following a gunfight, when it's safe to do so, part of the T and fast is to treat injuries. And you have to check yourself for injuries. You have to have someone else check you, and you need to check other people when you've been involved in a gunfight. Because you may not know that you've been shot. You may have so much adrenaline and endorphins pumping through your body, you just don't know it. And because of all that going on, you have vasoconstriction. You might not be bleeding a whole lot, but once some of the adrenaline and endorphin levels start dropping some, and your circulatory system starts to ease up, like your part of your body that's away from your core. What happens in fight or flight is you start having vasoconstriction. Your veins and stuff start constricting and restricting blood flow to the extremities, because in a fight you don't need blood in your extremities. The body doesn't care about that. The body wants blood at the core where it matters the most, which is why you'll see some people with like ghostly white faces after a gunfight. That's just the body's natural reaction. It's something that is theorized to have occurred over all the years of evolution. The body recognizes, hey, we don't need blood going to the face right now. We need it in the core. That way, if we get stabbed, we got more blood there. We don't care about the face. So you can see like really pale white faces. And a good illustration of that is if you do a search for New York Port Authority police officer Chris Amoroso, I believe his name is. There's a picture of him as he has brought a woman out of one of the towers, and it is the last picture known of him before he turned around and went back up in the tower, and then it, of course, fell down and killed him. But in that picture, you see his face is it's white. I mean, just pale white. And that is a good illustration of what a face looks like during fight or flight, or can look like. So he's running his hands on his extremities, and he's going to be looking at his hands to see if there's blood there, and checking around his torso area and seeing if there's blood. You can do a self-check. The good thing is to have a buddy do a buddy check on you, and then you do a buddy check on them, see if there's any blood, and if so, treat those injuries.
Good. Shoot at us again!
Why don't you go hands with me? So now, gun, put some gloves on. Here. I have mediums.
That's fine, use them.
Use them. Let him say you people.
Where you at?
E5.
First blood, do just do a physical check.
Copy the officer's head.
You want to swing around or you want to...
Suspect, do not reach for the gun! We want to get you medical aid! Roll away from the gun or put your hands on your head so we can render aid to you!
Yeah. Go for it with him. If you watch the side, and they can maybe come up on the other side. Just use both hands.
Just leave it there. No fault.
Guys, good Tom behind the tree here?
Yeah, I'm good.
Run!
We're gonna
Yeah, we copy.
Suspect, we would like to render medical aid for you, but we do not want to be shot. Are you able to crawl away from the gun so we can render medical aid to you?
It might be under his, like, kind of right here.
Air 3 said it's about a foot away from him.
Oh, it's a foot away from him.
Yeah.
Copy.
Within reaching distance of him right now.
Yeah.
He's there.
Canine's
We
here.
could do canines, we could do long. Hey, can your dog drag?
Yes.
If we could drag, because the gun's right there, if we could drag, then we could 10-15 him.
We're all
Alright?
okay.
Then we could cuff him off and stuff. Because the gun looks like it's right there. Do you see the gun?
Air 3 set it in.
K9! Stop for what? Hey, let me see your hands on those. Gonna bite you.
Air 3 King 5.
Sheriff's Office K9! I'm a warning! Gonna see my dog, he won't bite you! Hey, you guys go.
I'll go hands when we need
I
it.
got his.
I got cuffs. I got cuffs.
Copy.
You guys see the gun right now.
You go,
Guys, see the gun right now.
I'm gonna go to the left side of it. Once he gets the dog off. Fuck that vehicle.
Approaching here.
I got hands and cuffs.
She's going left side of the right.
Yes, guys, yes. Got the gun.
Okay.
Hey, hold him there, hold him there.
Seriously? Alright.
Hey, we're gonna come from this side, we're coming from this side!
Got it.
Okay. So that concludes the
I got
video.
cuffs.
Alright, hang tight. Everybody okay?
Yes.
I'm okay.
Now, it talked about them providing first aid to this guy. We don't get to see any of that. Medical gear is important. And when I say that, I mean it's important for you and your partners or family if you're an armed citizen or even if you're off duty. Some of these officers ran an okay distance away from their vehicle. some people have the mindset that they'll keep the medical gear in their car, and if they need it, then they just go to their car to get it. Well, if your car is super far away and you've been shot in the leg and you can't get to your car, how the fuck are you going to treat your injuries? Not very good. So medical gear has to be carried on you. If you carry a gun on a daily basis, then you should carry medical gear on a daily basis. If you carry a gun on a daily basis, then you should recognize the fact that you could be involved in a gunfight, and that a gunfight means bullet goes both ways. It's a two-way range. And that you have a chance of being shot. There you should carry medical gear on you in the event the bad thing happens. You cannot rely on medical gear being staged in a vehicle. You may not be able to get to it because you cannot physically get to it. You may not be able to get to your vehicle because it got stolen. You may not be able to get the medical gear out of your vehicle because someone set it on fire. You may not be able to get to your medical gear because you're pinned down by gunfire and you can't go out behind your cover and get to that vehicle, or you risk getting your ass shot off. You may be super far away from your vehicle. You may be all the way down the woods. You may be 2-3 blocks away and have cut through corners, and you're not anywhere near your vehicle. And by the time you got to your vehicle and it got back to someone injured, or by the time you even got near your vehicle, you could bleed out. That's why you have to carry medical gear on you. Now, on some of these views, you can see some of these officers are carrying tourniquets. You can see on some of them, they carry it to their left rear behind their radio. And of course, that wants to do that to me. For example, right here, you can see this officer tourniquet right there. This officer over here, you can't see it very well, but he has a tourniquet right there. And I want to say that she had one kind of right there too. And then you can see it on a couple others. So they are carrying tourniquets. I like that. Unfortunately, you don't see it very often, officers carrying tourniquets, but it is kind of an emerging trend. You're starting to see more and more of them do it. I just wish it would catch like wildfire and you see it on everybody. But we don't get to see that, unfortunately. If that's all you carry, then at least you are carrying something. Something is better than nothing. Now, is a tourniquet always applicable? No. I've seen lots of videos where people put a tourniquet on someone and there was no need for a tourniquet. So will a tourniquet help you with a sucking chest wound? Nope. Not going to do shit for that. So there's other stuff that you could be carrying on you to help mitigate some gunshot wounds. And you can carry this extra stuff in something like a medical ankle holster. I have a video on medical ankle holsters. Highly recommend you go check it out. You can do a Google search for, or a DuckDuck search for medical ankle holsters. You'll find medical ankle holsters that come empty and you put your own stuff in it. And you can find medical ankle holsters that come pre-stocked with stuff in it. I think that is the best route to go in a uniform. If you already carry an ankle holster, then there should be no problem with you carrying a medical ankle holster on the opposite ankle. It certainly makes it easier for officers who wear the more traditional Class A, Class B style of uniform, where you have dress pants that don't have cargo pockets and you've got the uniform top and no vest. Or no, I'm sorry, no outer vest. Or if you do have an outer vest, it's designed to look like a uniform shirt and doesn't have a bunch of Molly or Pals webbing on it. It's very versatile. Of course, it sucks if you work bicycle patrol and you wear shorts. Or you wear shorts for summer wear because where you live at gets extremely, extremely hot. Then, of course, it becomes a little bit difficult to get away wearing a medical ankle holster because it just looks weird, just like it would look weird wearing an ankle gun wearing shorts. For officers who wear cargo pants, obviously you would easily be able to stuff a medical kit down into your cargo pant. If you have an outer vest that has Molly Pals webbing on it, then you should be able to very easily carry medical gear on your vest. Having the medical gear is one thing. You got to have the knowledge on how to use it, just like your gun. Like, you just can't give a gun to someone who's had no training on it whatsoever, no experience, and say, all right, take this gun and use it to defend yourself and or defend other people. It's not going to work out too well. It may work. They may do kind of okay, but it could also end disastrous. So the same is true with medical gear. You've got to have training on how to use it. And you got to have some medical knowledge as well. We'll go see the gunfight one more time. So I like how these officers are committed to the fight and they're not dicking around with their radio. I've touched on this before in some other videos, and there's just sometimes where I think people spend too much time on the radio when they need to be focused on the fight itself. Yes, I understand and agree that the people who can shoot, move, and communicate are oftentimes the ones who win, at least the ones who do it good. However, there are times where it is not prudent for you to be dicking around with the radio. And this is one of those moments. It is not a good time to be trying to talk and blab on the radio. There is a gunfight happening. And I like how these officers are 100% committed to the fight. They are in the zone. So that, plus their communications with each other, how they're handling themselves with their reloads and taking cover to their advantage, taking the fight to him. I love it. I like it. Like, this is a great visual on what needs to happen in the gunfight. Really, the only negative thing I have to say is the fact that there's not more rifles out in play. And that's always going to be, a negative in almost every single video that I do on these things. And that's really it. That's the only really negative thing that I could think about. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.